Welcome to the National Pulse. I'm Raheem Kassam, editor-in-chief of thenationalpulse.com. I guess you might have heard there was a debate last night, and I guess it's wall-to-wall media coverage as a result. Over the course of this show, Natalie Winters and I will take you through the best and the worst moments from last night, but I want to reflect on some of the, I guess, reaction, what I call hysteria, on the back of that debate. If you look at the newspapers, if you look at the left-wing websites, if you look at the establishment media, they'll all tell you that last night was a farce, it was a debacle. They use words that I can't use on air to describe what happened last night. I call it a debate, and debates can sometimes get messy. Now, if you're only used to debating at a debating place in an Ivy League college, then sure, last night may have seemed a little bit too much of a throwdown for you. But for people in the real world, I think last night allowed them insight into two very different candidates. On the one hand, you had the beast, right? The guy who came out punching and kept punching the whole time. That's Donald Trump. And on the other side, the guy who barely landed any blows and refused to answer many questions. When he did answer questions, Joe Biden actually lied over and over and over again. He lied about his support for the Green New Deal. He lied about Antifa. He lied about what President Trump said in Charlottesville. He lied about his own healthcare plans. It went on. And in the middle of it all, supposedly in the middle of it all, was Fox News's Chris Wallace. Now, a lot of people have a lot of nasty things to say about Chris Wallace on the back of last night's debate. I'll steer clear of attacking him personally, but Chris Wallace just didn't do a good job. I think we all know that. I think the left knows it. I think the centre knows it. I think the right knows it. Now, there's something to be said for the fact that he was a man there by himself trying to control the beast, Donald Trump, which is a very hard thing to do. When Donald Trump has his eyes fixed on you, you know you're in trouble. And therefore, Chris Wallace thought he would take Biden's side, and he did over and over again throughout that debate. The hysterical reaction since, I think, is worth going through. And I think it's worth going through some of the things that we're now hearing as breaking news from the Debates Commission about how they plan to change the format, or at least change the assets that the moderator has at his or her disposal in the middle of the debate. So they've come out and said, just in the past hour, this is live breaking news, that they will look at changes to the structure to avoid what happened last night. Now, I don't think there was anything wrong with the structure of last night. I think having two candidates just go up against each other is the best way to battle these things out. You get to see the best of them, you get to see the worst of them. Isn't that what this is supposed to be about? Not some stage managed, microphone killing, structurally controlled thing by a Washington DC insider who picks a side halfway through the debate. In other words, what the commission is telling you, the people who put on these debates, is that they don't think you are smart enough to separate the signal from the noise. So they're going to do it for you. And remember, they did this with Hillary Clinton's emails. They've done it before. They've done it with WikiLeaks. They've done it with all sorts of different information. Don't read it. Don't look at it. We'll explain it to you. I think people are tired of having things explained to them. We'll look at the things ourselves, thank you very much. So now they're talking about introducing new measures. Well, one of those new measures, potentially, is the kill switch, the microphone off button. So that when a moderator is tired of listening to one candidate or another, and you know it's only going to be used against one candidate, they can cut their microphones off. I want to play you a clip from this morning on the War Room show to listen to what Stephen K. Bannon said about this kill switch. Way before, by the way, this news had even come out. Very prescient from Stephen Bannon here. Let's roll the clip.
And this is why the Democrats don't want any more. The media, the savvy people in the media don't want Biden back up on stage with Trump. Okay? They're going to come up with some excuse. You watch. Here's the reason. Biden, 2 or 3 sentences into things, forgets where he is. If you kind of let him go, and this is one of the things I think the president next time would be very strategic about how he cuts him off or how he inserts the comments. And the reason is Biden doesn't know where he is. The 2 biggest examples are the thing about masks, the question with Wallace about masks, and the question about his tax increases. In both situations, he totally forgot where he was 3 or 4 sentences into it. Embrace this, Democrats. You've traumatized your base so they don't want to go and vote. And now you got Nancy Pelosi, telling illegal aliens, hey, don't be intimidated by ICE agents down at the polling place. Don't be intimidated by ICE agents. Go home and get your illegal ballot and vote anyway. That's what she essentially just said, right? So they're going to be voting by the pound, non-citizens, right, on about your tax dollars in your country. Okay, number one. Number 2 is that he doesn't, they've traumatized the base, and they have a guy that doesn't know where he is all the time. And that's why they're freaked out. They're totally freaked out right now. And this is why they're going to come up with everything about President Trump to try to avoid having Biden get back up on a stage with him. Or they're going to try to change the requirements. They're going to say it's got to have a kill switch on the mic. They want a kill switch. They want a kill switch on Facebook. They want a kill switch on Twitter related to the president. They want a kill switch on his microphone. They want a kill switch. They want to stop the connectivity of his voice, right, to his voters and his people. That's what they're trying to do. So this is, I think, one of the recommendations I would make is that, just let Biden, on certain occasions, let's let Biden, because he wanders around. He doesn't have Jill up there. She doesn't have the bib with the index card in the back to tell him what he's supposed to do. He had notes last night. He was all totally confused about where he was.
You heard it there, the kill switch. That was this morning on the War Room, 10 a.m. to noon here on Real America's Voice. I want to go to a break now. When we come back, I want to play you what Nigel Farage told me yesterday right after the debates, and we'll get into it with Natalie Winters about how she thinks the thing went yesterday. In the meantime, this is the National Pulse. We'll be right back in just a moment. I do, thank you, Eric. Nigel Farage, Brexit leader, very late night in the United Kingdom, joins us down the line live on Real America's Voice. Nigel Farage, thank you so much for staying up tonight, watching the debate and joining us here on Real America's Voice. My old boss, Nigel, I mean, you've faced your fair share of debates in your time. How did you think tonight went for either side?
Yeah, I mean, 90 minutes, when you're up there, head-to-head, doing these debates, and I've done a few, as you just mentioned, it's a lot of pressure. Every move of the eyebrow is dissected afterwards, so it's a tough call. And I really wondered before the debate whether Joe Biden could survive for 90 minutes, whether he just get tired. And we saw him bumble and stumble a bit halfway through, but he didn't fall. He didn't fall, and Trump put him under extraordinary pressure. I'll come back to that. But he didn't fall, and that, I think, is significant. He also finished rather well. He finished in rather a dignified way. I don't like him particularly, but I think as objective as I can. The president, look, on law and order, I thought he was superb. On the economy, I thought he was very, very strong. And if they're the two things that really matter to American voters, that he's in a good place, because he's got the right things to say. He interrupted far too much, and you could see he was trying to wear Biden down, but he just came across a little bit too hectoring, in my opinion. I think Trump needs to just stand back a little bit, let it happen, and almost let Biden make a few more mistakes, because he was stopping him a little bit too much. So I thought the ending for Trump was disappointing, but on those two key points of law and order and the economy, he was very, very good.
But you say that, Nigel, but Chris Wallace, every time the president seemed to have the former vice president in the corner, there seemed to be an intervention from Chris Wallace to say, hey, actually, we're done with that subject now. We're going to move on. You're not going to have your say about it.
Well, look what happened over BLM. You know, Chris Wallace specifically asked Biden whether he supported the aims of BLM. Biden point-blank refused to answer it, yet he wasn't picked up on it. Whereas the president was put on the spot, do you condemn white supremacy? But that then took us somewhere interesting, didn't it, over Antifa, you know, which Biden said that Antifa was an idea, not an organization. Well, that was the biggest lie. That was the most revealing moment, I thought, of the whole evening. I also felt early on, when the discussion was supposed to be about the Supreme Court, that Wallace allowed it to become a debate on healthcare, almost to the exclusion of all the other points. So I don't think Wallace had a good night at all. And I think he was much tougher on Trump than he was on Biden. And I think the Republicans will start screaming foul about that.
And I think they'll have plenty of reasons to do so. Nigel, you've been in debates like this before. A lot of it comes to the post-game, the spin room, the post-analysis, what gets written about in the papers. Who do you think the Washington set and the London set and the Brussels set will write about as victors after tonight's events?
Well, I think what they'll say is that Biden was expected to perform very badly, but actually finished quite strongly. And that narrative's there for them. As you yourself said a few minutes ago, the bar had been set very low for him. So, yeah, as you say, literally just staying awake meant they were going to say nice things about him. I mean, look, in terms of performance, it probably comes out as a score draw because of the ending. I had Trump ahead until that last question. But
okay, so tell us about that last question. What particularly about that last question? Because I felt the same way, by the way.
It was about the integrity of the election, and you know, would the result be accepted? And look, I know more about postal vote fraud, all right, than almost anybody, because I've seen it in this country. I've seen it be abused, and there are massive warnings, and Trump is right to warn about it. But Biden finished up by saying, look, it'll be a fair election. If I win, I win. And if Donald Trump wins, he wins. And that sounds to people at home, sounds to neutral people at home, like a dignified way of answering that question. And Trump, he's right to point out the problems. But perhaps he should say, you know, let's hope it's a fair election, and if it is, I'll accept the result, whatever it is. He's in a difficult spot with this. I know he's in a difficult spot with this, but he needs to find a better answer.
Yeah, I think that's right. Nigel Farage, just before we let you go, I know it's very early in the wee hours of the morning over there in the United Kingdom, but Nigel Farage, just before we let you go, of course, I'm going to have more of these to come over the coming weeks. There's not a very long time to go until Election Day, which isn't polling day, by the way, here in the United States. It's the last day you can cast the ballot here in the United States, except if you cast the ballot the day before and it's counted 3 weeks after. We can get into that another time. But Nigel, your thoughts, your recommendations, your critiques going forward for the president for more debates. What would you tell him if you had to tell him 3 things right now?
Well, I think keep the focus on law and order. Keep aiming at those suburban voters, those comfortable middle-class types who don't necessarily like Donald Trump's style, but they are the key to winning this election, and he'll win this election if he convinces them that actually, because Biden is incapable of condemning appalling semi-terrorist organizations like Antifa, that the country will be safer with him. And I genuinely think that is the issue that can win Trump the election. Tonight, he showed it was his strongest card, and he's got the support, of all the law and order organizations, and that's the way he wins this election. But you put off the comfortable middle classes if you interrupt too much and look too much like a street fighter and not quite enough like a president.
Nigel Farage, leader of the Brexit Party, somebody who's been through a lot of these nationally publicised debates, and a good friend, a lifelong friend, in President Trump's own words, of the President of the United States. Thank you so much for joining us here. Get some good sleep. Nigel will speak to you shortly. Thank you so much for joining us here. Well, we look like we were having fun last night here at Real America's Voice. I'm always one of those types of people, and I always have been, I always will be, that if you're working late in the office, whether you're on national television or not, you have a few drinks with your debate. And that's exactly what I did last night. It was a great time here, and I want to thank the entire team at Real America's Voice for helping me home. No, I'm kidding, for putting the whole program together and doing such a great job between the hosts and the producers and all the staff. I think it was going to be just a bumper night for Real America's Voice. And if you liked what you saw, please tell your friends. Tell them that you can reach us on Pluto and Roku and Comcast in Chicago and YouTube and Periscope and beyond. Make sure you're subscribed, you're signing up, and you're staying tuned. I want to come now to this clip from an old colleague of mine from the War Room, Jason Miller. Jason was on with Sleepy Eyes, Chuck Todd, just about an hour ago today. So this is a brand new breaking clip you may not have seen yet. And they were talking about the debates from last night, and Chuck was not happy at all. Let's roll it.
What's resonated with most Americans is the president's failure to condemn white supremacy, white supremacists, and the Proud Boys, in fact, encouraging them to stand by and attack Antifa. I know your campaign is trying to come around and saying he misspoke. It's been 15 hours. The president has a lot of ways to speak. He always knows when he has something to say, he says it. He's refusing to say anything, and it sounds like the public should take that for what it's worth.
Now, Chuck, and please don't come rushing to the rescue of someone who spoke at the funeral of an exalted cyclops for the KKK, someone who came out and said they didn't want their kids going to a school in a racial jungle, someone who even Kamala Harris
Are you really going down this road?
Racist I am.
Are you really?
120%.
Is this
100? I'll make 150%. Chuck.
Jason, you're making. Are you really going to do this? The president of the United States refuses to condemn David Duke. Refuses to.
He condemned it. He condemned it last night.
No, he didn't.
Chuck, there's
and why
no
wouldn't
way.
he condemn the Proud Boys?
He did. Chris Wallace
why wouldn't he do it?
No, he didn't. And he said, sure. Yes, he did. He said, sure, 3 times. Not 1 time, not 2 times, but 3 times. Chuck, don't throw Joe Biden a lifeline here.
That is
Joe Biden has been palling around.
You're making stuff up.
Chuck,
enough with the gaslighting.
You ain't black.
Enough with your gaslighting. Jason Miller.
You ain't black.
You know what you're doing here. You know what you're doing. You're taking things purposely out of context to try to somehow equalize what the president did. Here's what I want you to explain to me. Why is it that every time the president
to go on the Breakfast Club
Jason Miller, I want to understand why the president of the United States 4 years ago couldn't condemn David Duke, 3 years ago said there were fine people on both sides, said here couldn't condemn the Proud Boys. This is not an accident anymore. This is called a pattern.
Chuck, don't gaslight the viewers here. Very clearly last night, President Trump said that he condemned those groups. When Chris Wallace said you condemned them, and the president
what does
said
stand
sure.
by mean?
Last Friday, Chuck. Hold on.
Why does he want him to stand by? Why does he want the Proud Boys to stand by? What is he standing by for?
Stand by the wayside. Stand by the wayside and get out of the way. Let law enforcement do their job.
I mean, Chuck Todd's answer to the debacle. Remember, they're all scared of this debacle that they say occurred last night. It's too much shouting for them. They were sitting at home with their knitted little blankets and they wanted a nice debate, a nice structured debate. Chuck Todd's answer to too much shouting is to shout over his guest on his program. See the hypocrisy there? And I want to go through that clip a little bit. And Jason Miller did an extremely good job of not losing it with Chuck Todd. Look at Chuck Todd's body language for a start. He's interviewing somebody. He's attacking them. He's lying. We'll get to that in a second. But he does this. He does this during his... He goes like this. That doesn't seem to me like the body language of somebody who is confident in what they're saying. It seems to me like somebody who is scared, somebody who doesn't really understand what's going on, and somebody who's trying to lie, and therefore you're covering yourself. You're creating a barrier, a physical barrier. It's psychological between you and your audience. You don't see me sitting here doing the show like this, do you? Do you? You don't. That was Natalie saying I do. I don't. But let's get to the lies. What they're doing is they're now doing mop-up for Joe Biden. You know how every day Joe Biden would call the lid at 8:30, 8:40 in the morning, whenever it was, and the media would carry on through the day campaigning for him. We're seeing that today as well. Chuck Todd just said, the president said, stand by and attack Antifa last night. The president didn't say stand by and attack Antifa. The president said he was clearly asked, will you condemn these groups? And he said, you name a group, name one of these groups. And he was given a couple of things. And he said, I condemn it. I tell them to stand by, stand out of the way. Right? That's what he meant. Stand by. Not stand by. Things are happening any second. You can get involved. You see, they'll take, it was like that, what Nigel said in the interview we did last night with him. That every single eyebrow, every movement, they'll investigate. And every single word, they'll take it and they'll twist its meaning. This is what we're seeing in real time now. And Jason was absolutely right to point out that MSNBC is gaslighting their viewers. What they're doing is they're riling them up. They're creating fear. They're creating division. They're saying the president, as Sandy Cortez has tweeted today, the president is a white supremacist and he needs to be dealt with. Right? That's what they're saying. That's what they're trying to make happen. They want violence. They want violence from their side, from their supporters, on the political right. That's what they're doing when they lie to their viewers. The Proud Boys. I don't know how many of you have ever come across the Proud Boys or hung out with the Proud Boys. It's basically a drinking club where they wear the same polo shirts and have a lot of cheap American beers that I wouldn't drink. But the Proud Boys, like imagine being terrified at Chuck Todd, like the Proud Boys. I'm stunned that these people are willing to throw their entire careers down the drain to prop up Joe Biden. I'm absolutely stunned about that. But I suppose it makes sense when you think about it. It makes sense because for them, Joe Biden is all that's left. He says, I am the Democrat Party. He is the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is dying. I truly believe that President Trump won that debate last night. There are fair criticisms to make, but he won. We'll get into it with Natalie Winters after this break. Got the Manchester United match in front of me, the Carabao Cup, and we just scored. So I'm very, very happy about that. Welcome back to the National Pulse. I'm Raheem Kassam, joined in studio by Natalie Winters. Natalie, take it away because I've got a match to watch here. Actually, we're just going to half-time, so I guess I can do my show. Natalie, reactions from last night. We've got a lot of clips that we can play with, a lot to go through. You've heard from me, you've heard what I think, you heard what Nigel Farage had to say, you've heard what Steve Bannon had to say, you've heard what Jason Miller had to say. What does Natalie Winters have to say? Next on the that's the pecking order.
Definitely a very ominous foreshadowing for what a potential Biden administration could look like. And what I mean by that, it's late in the night in the Oval Office. You have Joe Biden in one corner and you have the radical left, the AOC types, the Bernie Sanders types. I don't think he's going to have a moderator like Chris Wallace there. I don't think they're going to be changing the rules for him to make it easier. I think what you saw on that stage was a weak guy who can't debate, who cannot hold his own, really doesn't have any opinions or positions that he can defend. And I think you're going to see the far left elements of the Democratic Party, if he was to be elected, take advantage of him the same way President Trump kind of did.
What do you make of, who do you think won? And okay, so I guess you probably think Trump won, but if you don't, let me know, and leave. No, but rank it out as a percentage or out of 10 or something, each candidate.
I would say Trump was probably an 8 or 9 out of 10, but that was only because in 2016, I think he set the bar so high with his iconic lines and moments, which I still watch the highlight reels from the 2016 debates. They're epic.
I think we all do.
Yeah,
it's my alarm clock in the morning.
They're amazing. Only Rosie O'Donnell.
You'd be in jail.
Exactly. So I don't think that this debate necessarily many moments as iconic as the 2016 election cycle, but
I don't think Joe Biden telling the President of the United States to shut up will go down in history.
I think the Rosie O'Donnell line was superior, but I think it had to do with the individual he was going against, just in the fact that Joe Biden really was silent for a lot of the time. It took a while to get that shut up remark out of him.
It's because Chris Wallace was doing his job for him.
Exactly.
Chris Wallace appeared to just want to be Joe Biden for the night. What do you make of this? I want to read this out, this statement that's come out from the Commission on Presidential Debates. Okay, this was about an hour ago that they put this statement out. So this is breaking news as far as this news cycle is concerned. It says the Commission on Presidential Debates sponsors televised debates for the benefit of the American electorate. Last night's debate made clear that additional structure should be added to the format of the remaining debates to ensure a more orderly discussion of the issues. The CPD will be carefully considering the changes that it will adopt and will announce those measures shortly. The Commission is grateful to Chris Wallace for the professionalism and skill he brought to last night's debate and intends to ensure that the additional tools to maintain order are in place for the remaining debates. Steve Bannon predicted this morning. He talked about a kill switch. Talk about kill switch for Facebook, it's kill switch for Twitter, our friends at Lead Stories, and now they want a kill switch for the president's mic. That's effectively what this is saying, right?
It's just the latest example of really election interference to prop up Joe Biden, whether it's the mainstream media taking his talking points, whether it's groups like the Transition Integrity Project or social media platforms, which we have a story up on the National Pulse about, how there's a really close relationship between these big tech platforms and the Biden campaign in terms of their hiring decisions.
I have a better idea than the Commission on Presidential Debates. And this is an open invitation, by the way, to the President of the United States and to the former Vice President Joe Biden. Right here. Come here, and I won't be here. No moderator. How about that? No moderator. Stand the candidates next to each other, say, you're live, and let them rip into each other.
Well, speaking of two people being alone in a room together, I'm inclined to think about how Joe Biden had 25 hours of private meetings alone with Xi Jinping. And when you understand the Obama-Biden administration, how China took advantage of us really in unprecedented levels, whether it was taking our jobs, our intellectual property, really the United States ceded our military strength to that country, I think you can kind of see why, right? Joe Biden was effectively alone with Xi Jinping and one translator. There's no wonder how Xi Jinping got Joe Biden to admit to a host of deals and trade deals that hurt America, whether it was because he didn't understand what was going on, but because he's had people like Chris Wallace in the room, the mainstream media always covering for him. But the Joe Biden that we saw on that debate stage is no way up to task to handle whether it's foreign leaders like Xi Jinping or even domestic leaders like AOC, like Bernie Sanders, those who really want to, quote, push the Biden administration to adopt their radical policies. He's not up to task.
Let's play some of these clips that we have lined up. I want to go to clip 1 here. Biden really not responding when asked specific questions. Let's roll clip 1 here.
Senator, I'm not going to answer the question.
Why wouldn't you answer that question?
The question is, the question is,
radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list?
Right, gentlemen, I think
this is so unprecedented.
He's going to pack the court. I'm not going to give a list.
That's Joe Biden refusing to answer a question, President Trump actually pushing him, and Joe Biden coming back and saying, shut up, man. Would you shut up, man? I mean, I've never even been that rude to you. I would never do it to the President of the United States. But this is the respect, this goes to the respect with which Joe Biden has for Donald Trump, and that is nothing, bupkis, right? And then expects to be treated with respect back. Expects to be handled gently and delicately, like the precious little flower that he is, right? And he invokes his dead son. When the president was clearly talking about Hunter Biden, Joe Biden brings up Beau and uses his dead son as a shield to protect him against the president pushing and pushing and pushing. And why shouldn't the president push about Hunter Biden? And why shouldn't the president push about other questions related to the Green New Deal and the radical left? You know, those are the questions that the moderator should be asking and is not. So it's incumbent upon the other person up there to do that. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of having a debate at all? And that's what they really want. That's where they really want to go with this. What they really want to say is, actually, we'd rather Joe Biden wasn't up there at all. We'd rather not have any more debates. You heard Nancy Pelosi weeks ago saying he shouldn't debate. Other people have said he shouldn't debate. And this morning, Mika Brzezinski and all those clowns saying Joe Biden should no longer take part in any of the future debates. Would you do that if you thought your guy had won?
Exactly. Joe Biden did not take Michelle Obama's words, when they go low, we go high to heart, when he said that line. But I think it goes back to the fact that the only reason that President Trump had to be so allegedly belligerent or aggressive in some of his questioning tactics was because Chris Wallace wasn't doing his job.
And if that's the so-called conservative anchor, what are the establishment-led debates going to look like? We'll be back with more National Pulse in just a second. Well, if you like our work, head on over to thenationalpulse.com/support or go to fundrealnews.com. You can support everything that we're doing in terms of investigations, breaking news, and beyond. We've got some exciting announcements coming in the next week or so. We may be somewhere near you very soon. But more on that. That's a little tease for you. More on that next week as we know more. I want to play clip 2 here on our list in front of us. Let's just roll this.
First of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it.
I told you, Natalie, it wasn't a red tie.
It's blue and gold.
I said it was blue and red. I said gold or blue. I'll take my second guess. We can get into their sartorial choices in just a second. But this was one of the lines we expected to come up, right?
Yes, exactly. Because any of the grand policy proposals that Joe Biden would reference, the swift action that he promised to take on a host of issues, I think the line that President Trump used used, I don't know if it was that exact clip, but he says, I've done more in 47 months than you have done in 47 years. And that's true.
Let's play that. Let's clip 8. Let's get clip 8 up. I want to make sure we play that, because you were right. This is something that you predicted that would be mentioned, and it's something that did take place. Let's roll clip 8.
Let me just tell you, Joe, I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe.
Over to you.
Exactly. And I think that this goes...
You don't have to say exactly to everything.
I'm just affirming what you're saying.
Precisely.
No, but this goes back to what I think we were talking about on the show yesterday.
Yeah.
And that is, even if you take the politics out of it, even if you support Joe Biden's positions on the issues, how could you trust him, even if you elect him as president, to actually enact any of the policies that you favor, right? He was vice president for 8 years. That's arguably the second most powerful position in the country. And despite holding that office, basically all of the issues that you see on his campaign platform, even especially the Sanders unity ticket, he didn't get anything done.
Here's where I think the president was really, really fantastic, was when he was talking about law enforcement. He clearly, Biden should have known. He's only been prepping every day for the last 2 weeks. He should have known this was going to come up, but he had nothing to say about this. I want to roll clip 9 from last night. Let's go to it.
Portland, the sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't.
I wish we had the clip of Joe Biden's face while that was all happening as well, because he's stunned in that moment. He's dumbfounded. He doesn't know what to say. Because part of him's thinking, of course, I was one of the guys that enacted all of these measures in the early 90s that locked so many people up. But he doesn't want to tell the left that now. And he doesn't want to tell the moderates and the independents and the right that he's abandoned law and order that he supposedly used to stand for. But Joe Biden's face was kind of like, that in that moment just stunned into silence. He didn't even try and interject. It's all there. And that moment reminded me of the Joe Biden battering that he got at the hands of his own VP pick, Kamala Harris. It was that sort of thing, if you remember back to the Democratic primaries, that they would just, their pile-on to Joe Biden, and he didn't respond. He was just kind of like, I'm just going to stand here and take it and absorb it, because I guess there's nothing much he can say to that. And on that note, I want to go to clip 11 as well on this. Similar theme. Let's roll clip 11.
True.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement
that's not
support.
true.
Almost
that's
nothing.
Look.
Really, who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
No, think
all right.
about it. Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported
gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm...
Wait, I enjoyed that one so much, we're going to play it again. Let's play that again.
True.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement
that's not
support.
true.
Almost
that's
nothing.
Look.
Really, who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
No, think about it. Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported
gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm...
We don't have time. We don't have the time. He couldn't name one. He tries to kill it with, we don't have the time. And of course, Chris Wallace jumps in to defend Joe Biden. All right, we've got about a minute and a half left in this segment, Natalie. And in the next, we've got some news for the audience that's just up on the National Pulse website about Facebook. Steve Bannon talked about the Facebook kill switch, but we'll be talking about some personnel changes there. Anything more on the debates in the meantime?
Two more things. One, I think it's interesting. It was an old speech of President Trump's that you played, I think this week, maybe last week, but it was a speech from 2016. I believe he was speaking in Ohio, and he said, you can't tackle a problem if you can't name it, right? This was a theme of the Obama administration where he wouldn't say radical Islamic terrorism. I think what you saw when Joe Biden not only called Antifa an idea and not an organization, but he couldn't look in the camera and say, I support law and order. He said, I support law and order, and followed it up with a host of social justice slogans about equity and equality. So I think that it really speaks to the fact that Joe Biden cannot enact law and order, cannot restore law and order if he can't even say the words.
That was two things?
Oh, and the second thing is, I think another powerful kind of mic drop moment was when Donald Trump told Joe Biden, or rather Joe Biden kept saying, oh, all those Hunter Biden allegations, they're discredited. They're discredited. Discredited by who?
Yeah.
And President Trump pushed him on that, asked him point blank, discredited by who? And Joe Biden never responded. Obviously, they're very substantive allegations. Our own Senate has thrown their weight behind it. We've been reporting on this for years.
Look, I mean, the fact is that if Hunter Biden was in the clear, then Hunter Biden would be out campaigning with his father, right? That's what you do. You saw all those great pictures of the Trump family out there campaigning together yesterday. But Hunter Biden, nowhere to be seen, of course. 2 words. Where's Hunter? We'll be right back. Well, the Commission for the Debates is saying that last night was a dumpster fire, and so they're going to need new structural changes and new rules. We'll be keeping a keen eye on that over at thenationalpulse.com and reporting what precisely they suggest. Actually, really interestingly, in that statement, Natalie, they said we will be carefully considering adding additional structure, and we'll announce them soon. Well, it's not careful consideration if they're going to be announcing them soon, is it? It's clear what they're going to do here. It's very clear that they've got this in mind already. I am interested in how the Trump campaign responds to this, though, because if you've got a CNN or an ABC or even a Fox News moderator up there that can shut the president's mic off, I'm not sure the president should take part in debates like that. You know, Joe Rogan invited both of the candidates to have a 4-hour slugfest, right, on his show. Just sit down, 2 microphones, slug it out. No kill switches, no mute buttons, none of that. That's what the Trump campaign should be doing. Trump committed to it. He said he'd do it. He said he'd love to do it. Biden just ignored it. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want to have to answer the questions, right? Always wants help along the way. And now he's going to get help from Facebook as well. Tell us about this new story up on the National Pulse.
Exactly. So we know that. Oh, hi.
Exactly. We've got to get you out of that. Exactly. It is exactly on the National Pulse. That's right.
It's precisely on the National Pulse. No, as we've covered extensively, Facebook, Twitter, all these social media platforms, they are an integral component of really the Democrats' attempt to steal the 2020 election. Now, whether this is the Transition Integrity Project saying that these platforms need to clamp down on any premature announcements of who's won the presidential election, or even the words of Mark Zuckerberg promising that they would not announce a victor, that they would really have an extensive messaging campaign to convey to Facebook's tens of millions, in fact billions of users, that it would be totally normal if the results for this election took weeks, even a month, to come out due to mail-in ballots. So really just running interference for the Democrats. So it's certainly curious that the Biden transition team, as part of their new hiring spree, hired an individual by the name of Jessica Hertz, who served as former Associate General Counsel for Regulatory Matters at Facebook. So this is really an egregious hire on 2 fronts. One, this is an individual who oversaw effectively Facebook's ability to regulate and censor content, whether that was content shared by the presidents, content shared by conservatives, and we know Facebook has a real affinity for censoring content. Even your Facebook page has been censored, the National Pulse has been censored. I've yet to be censored. I'd wear that as a badge of honor.
Wait, do you even have a Facebook page?
I have a personal Facebook page.
Well, let's get you a fan page. You have enough fans. Get you a fan page, and let's see if they censor that too.
Probably. I'm sure Alan Duke of Lead Stories would love to come after some of our reporting on his group. But also, interestingly enough, this kind of evil axis, really, between the Joe Biden campaign and big tech platforms. You've seen an individual who has extensive ties to Facebook. They've also hired people who used to lobby on behalf of Twitter, and even people who've worked for Apple on their transition team, which is really concerning when you kind of can see the playbook unfolding as to how really they imbue Facebook, Twitter with really paramount significance in being able to stifle claims coming especially from the Trump campaign about a victory come election night. And those aren't even our words. That's the words of Hawkfish, a Bloomberg-funded, a DNC-hired analytics firm, which speaks about the so-called Red Mirage and how Donald Trump will win on election night, but in the following weeks, in the following month, a mail-in ballot's found here, a mail-in ballot's found here, and all of a sudden the election result is reversed.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. And I'm glad to see that the Trump campaign is lawyering up and that those lawyers are doing something. We're getting news of new lawsuits every single day nearly now that are being filed all over the country because so many places, so many counties, so many states have these problems that were so obviously going to happen, right? That at this point you know it's by design. Not by accident that these things are happening, whether it's ballots being lost or extensions to the mail-in vote process or what we saw from Project Veritas and the harvesting and all of that. I mean, here's the thing. Just thinking out loud here, the Democrats talk so much about how we should be able to learn from other countries and other places in the world and kumbaya and we're all going to hold hands and be one big global family. But there's plenty of evidence from overseas that shows how dangerous mass mail-in voting is. Not legitimate solicited mail-in ballots, but mass mail-in voting. And it's so obvious to see. I showed some of the evidence from Tower Hamlets the other day on this show from East London. Nobody has seemed to put this in a report anywhere. No Senate committee has done anything into this. So for me, and I think for this audience as well, they recognize that this is all by design. It's designed to make this process confusing and untransparent. This revolving door between the left and the big tech giants is deeply concerning, and Jessica Hertz being the latest, former government employee in the Obama administration, in the vice president's office, i.e. Joe Biden's office, heads on over to Facebook as a general regulatory counsel, and then goes back on over to the Biden transition team. I mean, you wonder why you see so much bias in the big tech companies. It's because you have overt partisans, political party activists who are taking up those positions. I don't see how they can any longer put their hands up, how Zuckerberg can put his hands up and say, no, we're not biased one way or the other. We're just trying to make sure that the truth is what gets by. Yeah, you just keep hiring Democrats to do it.
It's the same strategy of the Transition Integrity Project, right? They claim bipartisanship, they claim neutrality, but in reality, they're hardline political activists. And it's exactly what you're saying about mail-in ballots. Inherently, there's nothing necessarily wrong with them for individuals who can't get to the polls, who are disabled. But it's how mail-in ballots are functioning in the Democratic narrative about this election, in the sense that they seek to undermine this election being any semblance of normalcy, right? President Trump is going to try to steal this election. He's going after mail-in ballots in a way that's totally not substantiated. But in fact, as Project Veritas has exposed, as you've covered, it's happening in the United Kingdom, there is a possibility that mail-in ballots, especially universal mail-in ballots, can be used for nefarious purposes. Big time.
Well, Natalie, we just thank you so much, and thank you for wearing pink. On Wednesdays we wear pink, so there you go. Stick to tradition here on the show. All right, that brings us to the end of our program today. Stick around here on Real America's Voice. So much great programming coming up today. Just like always, want to make sure that you guys are all out there going to thenationalpulse.com/support, or you can go to fundrealnews.com. Also want to make sure you get Thomas Farnan. He's just a brilliant lawyer. He's got his new book out, The Russia Lie. You can go to therussialie.com to get it. It's only $5. And given what's going on with the Russia conversation right now, get up to speed. This is the National Pulse. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m.